Last week I watched Obsession, which I thought was a fantastic horror movie. I went with a coworker and his fiance, and now I like to go into movies fresh, and I pretty much went into this one knowing nothing about the premise outside of just knowing that it was popular and people were loving it. So I went in expecting jump scares, some creepy moments, maybe a fun concept, but honestly, I was met with some pretty deep themes and some just reminders of where things are currently at for me at the moment. Now, maybe a bit of a skewed perception just based on how this year has been going for me, which I'm happy to explain a bit more since I think it was a pretty important movie for me to see and kind of reflect on. I won't get into any real spoilers, but I will lightly explain the premise just because it's kind of important as to why it was so impactful. But before diving into that, I do just want to quickly acknowledge how incredible the horror genre has been lately. I'm not sure if it gets talked about enough, but I do feel like we're living in a very special era when it comes to horror movies. There's been kind of a shift where they've become a lot more deep and psychological in a very fun and creative way. Some examples like Bring Her Back, Weapons, Talk to Me, Get Out. They've all got a very unique but kind of similar vibe that's been a bit refreshing. It's kind of hard to put my finger on and like how to really explain it. I don't know if it's kind of like the minimalist approach that they're taking or having supernatural elements be more of like kind of like a subtle part of the story. Um, but it's really led to a lot of cool creative films, and I do think again we're living in a pretty cool era at the moment, like in this 2020s, and I think it'll be a fun kind of moment in time to look back on when we look at these movies in retrospect. And yeah, maybe I'll do another video in the future where I talk about that a bit deeper, but I do want to focus this one mainly on Obsession and kind of keep it to this. So if you haven't seen the movie yet and want to go in fresh, I suggest clicking away now because I will be getting into the basic plot and premise. So it has to do with a guy that has a crush on this girl in his friend group, and he plans to tell her on how he feels about her, but of course he's extremely nervous about doing so, and he buys like this little magic stick from a store that can grant him a wish. Now, quick aside here. I've seen enough movies, TV shows, whatever about wishes, and I fucking hate wishes. They just never work out well. They always have some bullshit catch or some just something. People always get screwed over with wishes. So you're never gonna catch me wishing on a star or throwing a penny into a fountain or rubbing a lamp. Fuck all that. Like I think I've just seen too many wishes go wrong, and this movie is no exception. Um, so of course he uses the wish to have the girl like him, but and it works. But she becomes very obsessed with him in a pretty aggressive way. So the obsession is a bit different. She likes him on a psychotic and uncomfortable level. I won't spoil what happens in the movie, but the general point is that she's technically under a spell, not actually in love with him. And he enjoys this at first; it's fun, but things eventually escalate and get to a point where he kind of wants to undo the wish. Now, I guess for part of the film, or what kind of has like its own charm, is that it does a great job of playing into some realistic relationship tropes and dynamics. Some of them are over exaggerated, of course, for the film's purpose, but they're kind of examples of like how women can behave or what they can do when they're in love with a man. That definitely added humor and some uncomfortable moments. And honestly, it was entertaining as well to see other couples in the theater kind of turn their heads, look at each other, and kind of be like, "Oh, you do this. I've seen you do that before. Like this is you." Um, which again, it was cute, but I've been single for about 6 months now, and was previously in a long-term relationship. And yeah, there were honestly things that reminded me of my relationship, and instinctually, I wanted to also turn my head and laugh with my partner. However, I remembered that was no longer my reality. I would turn to my side and just see an empty seat where she would have been. And of course, with the film being so heavily based around love and relationships, you would think that would be what messed me up so much. Truthfully, it did. Definitely had its impact, but there actually was another key moment in the movie that hit me even harder. Um, Now, like I mentioned before, the girl is technically under a spell and not actually herself. There's a particular moment in the film where she has a brief moment of clarity and sounds very scared and is asking to be put out of her misery. It's disturbing and it's a sad scene, and it's a reminder that she's not actually in control of what's going on. And honestly, that hit pretty heavy for me. And I'll go into a bit as to why that left an impact on me. Um, I've been dealing with a family member that is experiencing some pretty evident signs of mental health issues. Nothing has been officially confirmed or diagnosed, but there's been pretty clear signs of paranoia and potential dementia or schizoaffective disorder. It's been heartbreaking to watch, and a very tough reality to accept that somebody who raised me and cared for me doesn't really exist in the same way that they used to. Um, the disease has turned them into a different person than I remember, almost like they're under a similar sort of spell. However, there are times and instances where there are lucid moments that poke through. They don't happen often and can sometimes be deceptive or create false hope, a sense that they may be turning around and will be back to their old selves. But unfortunately, those moments are often short lived, and they are important to remind me that their spirit is still alive. A reminder that the person who used to laugh with me while watching TV or cheer me on at sporting events or hug me when I was upset and soothe me to sleep with beautiful lullabies is still there, except now they're suppressed by the illness. And as painful as it can be, it does serve as a motivator for me to stay patient and present while they're still here. Anyway, I'm not sure if I read too deeply into that scene, but that was just how I interpreted it. I'm also not sure if that was the intention, but if it was, holy shit, that was very well done. Um, and again, my hats off to everybody who was involved with that film. It was truly a refreshing and special movie. So much so that it inspired me to make a video about it and share these honest thoughts and reactions. It's not often that a movie gets me to feel this type of way, so it speaks to the volumes of just how well done it was. And that's all I wanted to share. For the next video, I'll definitely be a bit more cheery and kind of get off my Eeyore shit. So until next time.